New Zealand first, our sentiments to the last speech, particularly with respect to the Reverend Wynette Carr. But this speech is about a new Manchurian candidate. The government is going to spend the next few... I'll tell you who the Mandarin is, and I'll tell you who the puppets are, and you may as well get a mirror because it'll help you identify who I'm talking about. This government is going to be closing the saga on the Crayfar farms, and all it's going to do is to sneak this deal through when no one is watching. First, there is no doubt the deal will be announced whilst the Prime Minister is out of the country. Second, the Chinese company Shanghai Pension will be the buyer. Third, they have been promised a prime chunk of New Zealand land, even though the High Court ruled there was absolutely no economic gain to this country. Look at the history. First, Jack Chen and Mei Wang. The OIO had that application before them for months after months, when one phone call to the Hong Kong Stock Exchange would have told them what they found, and that was they were not of sufficient character. So out of left field comes the next Chinese deal in the form of Shanghai Pension. Again, months and months before the Overseas Investment Office. Any decent provincial lawyer knowing about land could have assessed this in 3 days flat. But no, months after months. Why? Because there's an election coming up. And they couldn't possibly run that past the people before the 2011 election. But the ministers in charge here, namely Coleman and Williamson, would rubber stamp anything. And the High Court said as much when they appeared to not even understand the law that they were acting under. Now, this is all because before the election. After the election, it's okay for Landcorp to do what the Prime Minister said before the election would not be done. He said, we do not want to be servants in our own country. So what's happening here? Well, under a rough share milking deal, Landcorp will be paying $80 million a year to the Shanghai company to occupy the land. Now, is that a tenant in your own country or not? But worse still, this is an SOE owned by the people of this country, and frog-marched into the deal with a Chinese company that knows absolutely nothing about dairy farming. Some Chinese do, this bunch does not. Surely that's being a tenant in our own country. And since the High Court decision six weeks ago, the deal has been kept under wraps. That's because officials and ministers have been doing more backflips than a team of gymnasts to beat the High Court ruling. We all know what's going on. And all through this, the Prime Minister has known what's going on. He has hung his hat on China. He has done a deal, just like all those sort of deals that the firm he got his training for, Merrill Lynch, did, that took, as everybody knows today, the Western world to the brink of financial collapse. The Chinese want to close the deal. So does the Prime Minister. But not when everyone is watching or listening. And I want to say to those backbenchers of the National Party that there are tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of national voters who know what I'm talking about, who are utterly opposed to this deal. And I appeal to every true New Zealander in this House or is listening to this program today. It's now over to them to rise up and do something, because this is the first of many deals of this character. Stand up, for God's sake, for your country. I know there are members of the National Party are worried sick about the sellout of New Zealand, and we appeal to their sense of decency and their sense of patriotism. Don't let this happen. Far too much of this country is already overseas owned. And we have to become, if we want to ever get back to where we once were, at the top of the world, masters of our own fate and arbiters of our own destiny. It's not a matter of globalisation and internationalism, it's about our country. We have never asked for these national backbenchers to do anything before. We ask them now. Don't make New Zealand another province of China. Remember the novel The Manchurian Candidate. It looks like the Manchurian Candidate Mark II is sitting live and well at the top floor of the Beehive. Well, he can sell this country out, but you'll pay the price for it next election.
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable John